Chitrakoot, Ram, Sita and Lakshman travel south and reach the ashram of Muni Atri. Muni Atri's wife was old, and seeing that Sita, who is such a beautiful princess, is devoid of any adornments, she feels sad and gives her all her ornaments. From there they travel further south, meeting and staying with other sages whenever possible, and killing many Rakshasas. They reach the hermitage of sage Sharabhanga, where Ram receives Indra's bow and a quiver of everlasting arrows. In this way, roaming from jungle to jungle, they spend the next 10 years. Then they meet sage Agastya in the forests of Pippali and receive from him celestial weapons created by Vishwakarma himself. On suggestion of sage Agastya, Ram, Sita and Lakshman come to Panchavati forest, make a small hut on the banks of Godavari and live there for some time. These southern jungles were home to many Rakshasas. The chief of them were Khara and Dushan, Ravan's brothers. One day, a beautiful but mysterious woman appears in front of Ram and proposes him for marriage. Ram refuses and playfully asks her to try to seduce Lakshman instead. Failing at Lakshman too, this woman attacks Sita, who was the cause of Ram's refusal. But Lakshman intervenes and cuts off her nose immediately. Raging in pain and anger, she changes into her original form of a Rakshasi and runs away. This was actually Shurpanakha, the sister of Ravan. She goes straight to Khara and Dushan to complain. They attack Ram's hut with 14,000 Rakshasas. A huge battle ensues, but Ram manages to kill all of them. Seeing this, Shurpanakha flees to Lanka. She goes straight to Ravan, who was in court with all his ministers. She cries to him about the mutilation done to her by Lakshman and then gives the news of the death of Khara and Dushan at the hands of Ram. To motivate Ravan even more, she describes in detail the beauty of Sita. She insists that as Ravan was the most powerful being in the world, only he deserved to have a maiden as beautiful as Sita. This was Ravan's weakness, and resolving to possess Sita for himself, he leaves Lanka. Ravan then seeks out Marich and narrates all that has happened. As Marich was a shapeshifter, Ravan asks for his help to distract Ram and steal Sita. Marich, who was now a devotee of Ram, tries to persuade Ravan against it, but Ravan stays adamant. Marich understands that the time of his death was near. If he helps Ravan, Ram would kill him. If he does not, then Ravan would kill him. But he desired to be slain at the hands of Ram. In that way he could attain nirvana. Thus Marich agrees to help Ravan. Marich transforms into a deer with shiny golden skin, elegant horns, dark eyes, and a red tongue. Ram and Sita were sitting in the jungle when Sita spots this golden deer. Sita is so fascinated with its beautiful dazzling skin that she asks Ram to bring her the deer skin. Lakshman cautions Ram, arguing that there are many shape-shifting Rakshasas in the jungle, so Ram must not pursue this. But Ram wanted to fulfill Sita's wish. Confident that no Rakshasa could harm him, he asks Lakshman to stay behind and chases after the deer. the deer lures Ram deep into the jungle. After a long time, finally getting a clear shot, Ram shoots an arrow into it. As soon as the deer falls, it cries out in Ram's voice, "Lakshman! Lakshman!" Then it transforms into Marich and dies. A shocked Ram realizes the trick and runs back towards the hut. Back at the hut, Sita hears Ram's cry for Lakshman and she begs him to go and help his brother. Lakshman tries to convince her that it was impossible that Ram would call for him and it must be some dark magic. But Sita would not listen. Finally, Lakshman agrees to go after Ram, but before leaving, he draws a protective line, Lakshman Rekha, around the house, such that no one will be able to cross it from outside. All this while, Ravan had been watching from behind the trees. Now he takes the form of a sage and comes to the hut, asking for alms. Sita politely asks him to wait for Lakshman and Ram, but the sage hurries her and wants to leave immediately. Fearing that the sage leaving empty-handed would be inauspicious, Sita comes out of the house with fruits to offer and she crosses the Lakshman Rekha. Ravan instantly grabs her hand and changes back into his real form as the king. Claiming to be Ravan, the king of Lanka, he proposes her to marry him. Sita gets very angry and distraught. She curses him and begins calling for Ram and Lakshman. But Ravan drags her into the Pushpak Viman and flies off to the skies. Sita continues to cry and scream for help. When Sita is abducted by Ravan, he takes her on the Pushpak Viman flying above the skies. Sita cries and screams for help. A huge bird named Jatayu, an old friend of King Dasharath, also lived in the Panchavati. Hearing Sita's cries, he comes to her rescue. He recognizes Ravan and even though he was old, attacks him viciously to free Sita. A great battle follows. Holding Sita with one hand, Ravan was not able to fight back very well and gets battered with Jatayu's attacks. Finally, Ravan manages to cut off Jatayu's wing and the great bird falls off the skies. Sita, in all this commotion, begins to throw off her ornaments on the ground one by one, hoping that Ram will find it and trace her to Lanka somehow. Back in the jungle, Lakshman finds Ram safe and both of them rush back home only to find it deserted. Ram gets extremely upset and enraged. He cries out, "Sita! Sita!" and starts searching for her everywhere. In the jungle, near the river, in the caves, in the hermitage of other sages, he runs around maddened by Sita's separation. Roaming like this throughout the jungle, Ram and Lakshman chance upon an injured and almost dying Jatayu. He narrates how and why Ravan had kidnapped Sita and how Jatayu had unsuccessfully tried to stop him. Jatayu finally dies on Ram's lap. Advancing south through jungles and crossing rivers, they reach the foot of Mount Rishimukh at the hermitage of Muni Matang. There, they are received by an old lady, Shabari, who is extremely happy to see Ram and says that she has been waiting for him every day for years. Shabari tells them that she had served Muni Matang for many years, and when it was time for him to pass on, the Muni had said, "Wait for Sri Ram here. When he arrives here, Only then all your sins will be washed away, and you will attain moksha. Since then, Shabari had been waiting for Ram every day. She offers Ram wild berries to eat, but she would taste each berry, and only if it is sweet, she will offer it to Ram. To this, Lakshman objects that why Ram was eating food already tasted by Shabari. To which Ram answers that this is the best food that can be offered to someone, because it was filled with love and devotion. Thus, Shabari fulfills her wish to serve Ram and leaves behind her body to attain moksha. This video is inspired and adapted from Ramayana in pictures, authored and illustrated by Champak Bhattacharya.